Welcome back, everyone, to theCUBE's coverage here. A special presentation here in our Palo Alto studios. My name is John Furrier, host of theCUBE. We're here with theCUBE and the NYSE Wired community. We got our East Coast and New York Stock Exchange CUBE, and also theCUBE here. Bring you all the action. Analisa Goodin is here, founder and CEO of Catch+Release. I'm fascinated by this mission and content because it does have impact on content value. Kind of ties into this AI generation as well as the CFO, because money's involved. Licensing content, creator culture is booming, open source content, remixing. We're in an era of TikTok ban coming up maybe. Analisa, great to see you.
Good to see you too, John.
So much to talk about. First, explain Catch+Release and your mission and how you got here, because this is really at the nexus of what I call digital rights in the modern era.
Yeah.
As everything's kind of open source and collaborative.
Yeah, and rights and licensing are a huge sort of unspoken issue in the sort of underbelly of this entire booming industry. So it's an exciting place to be. Catch+Release, our mission is to license the internet. So we work directly with content platforms, we work directly with creators, we work directly with brands and advertising agencies to manage the rights of content that they want to use in a public way. So someone producing an ad that wants to use a TikTok video that they found in that ad uses Catch+Release's platform and technology to obtain the rights to use that content.
So in this case, brands, TikTok creators can make money. So you're basically creating a platform for that. Does that sound like, if I'm a creator, I like you.
Yes, and also if you're a brand, you like us too, because we're protecting you from the legal risk and ramifications. I mean, brands are getting sued all the time for accidentally using something that they didn't have the rights to.
Give an example, because I think there's a huge point.
Sure, I mean, a lot of this stuff is public, but Chipotle was sued for $2 billion because they used a woman's image in a store that they didn't have proper permission for. Larger brands have higher exposure, and therefore usually people will come out of the woodwork and say, hey, you're using my stuff without permission. But we get this all the time. I get creators calling me all the time saying, hey, I just discovered that a piece of content that I posted to Instagram is being used in some advertisement that I didn't give permission for. What do I do? So it's really, I don't think that large brands are actively trying to steal people's content. I think it's just really hard to scalably do the right thing. It's too easy to make mistakes. So that's why it's a technology solution to automate and scalably offer rights management to brands and creators.
So it's a perfect topic for our CFO AI focus, because this is one of those things that impacts, obviously, money, chief legal, it's in the admin area, legal, finance. But there's no mechanism. It's like, oh, the internet's free. I just grab it and click and cut and paste. Yeah. Some creative puts it in an ad. Next thing you know, $1 billion lawsuit. That's the workflow. So there's no real checks and balances or guardrails. Is that kind of your...
Until now,
So explain the product and how people deploy with you and how do they engage on the solution.
So Catch+Release has automated the licensing process. So a brand who we call a storyteller, is the buy side of our marketplace, finds a piece of content on the internet and puts that URL or that image or video into our platform. What our platform does is it identifies who posted it, what other intellectual property exists within that image or video, because the people who have rights in an image or video aren't just the people who posted or own the image. It's also the faces that appear. And in some cases, those faces are of children whose parents need to consent. It can be very... the checks and balances there are super, super important. It can get really technical. And then once we've identified who the creator is, we understand the intellectual property bands, we work with the brand and the creator to set a price, and then Catch+Release obtains the license, and we sub-license it to the brand with full indemnification.
I mean, you bring up so many things people might not think about. Oh, my kids are in the video or a picture. They're not old enough. I mean, it's legal, so you get legal and historical. How much is the collision between old school, new school, legal theory? I mean, you go back to licensing the internet, which I love that line, by the way. I think that's a phenomenal tagline. Well, very simple.
The reason I started the company was actually I came from the creative side, so I worked inside of advertising agencies and marketing teams at brands, finding images and videos on the internet for them to use in their productions. And I started from a creative lens, really finding great content that they wanted to use, and realized after the fact that licensing was this hugely important bottleneck to the whole process. That if we couldn't obtain the rights and we couldn't be thorough in getting those rights, making the payments, having record of the payments, paperwork on file with signatures, high-res masters, the whole thing, then really we had to start all over from the beginning each time. And so I became really fascinated by by that problem of, well, what if we build the licensing tech to make this super scalable? What would that then do to the creative industry? It would really open it up. It would blossom. It would allow people to use lots of things, and it would allow creators of all types to participate in a new economy. So that's what I was really driven to do. And one of the things that I realized was a perfect case for technology was that the copyright process really was a pattern. It always was the same. You always had to go through the same exact steps to obtain.
Great for task. Yeah, put an agent on that.
Exactly. And so to your point about copyright law, that's been a pretty like steady state, dictum for the last 70 years.
It's also, I mean, first of all, that's a really great mission. So thank you for doing it. I remember the early days of Creative Commons and so many little nuances.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had cases on our publication where in the Creative Commons directories, people put in copyright because they know Creative Commons, you have to link back, so they're getting notified of the violation. They let it sit, and then they sue you. That's our little use case.
Yeah.
But there's also inefficiency. So companies, as a result of not having your platform, I've heard stories where, I'm a banana company or Dole or whatever, I'm, Chiquita Bananas. I might have 2,000 photos of a banana because I can't license the one, and then you have so much assets. So you've built a problem because you don't even want to go to the market and license. So you have photography. I mean, it's like, what are some of the inefficiencies that companies then just say, screw this, I'm not going to work on this. I'm just going to do my own thing. They got a database.
Yeah, well, I think custom production is one major area that if a brand wants to make an ad, their two options really are either shoot it from scratch with, I'm looking around here at a whole cast and crew, and it looks a little bit like this, or to leverage stock libraries like, Shutterstock or Getty or
roll
Adobe.
my eyes on that one.
It's tough because there's not an authentic solution as much in stock as there is with the internet. The internet represents culture. It's where 5 billion people are shooting and documenting their daily life on really high quality cameras in their pocket now. That looks a lot different than it did when I first got started, but that's where we are now.
So on the creative side, I want to get your thoughts on this because one of the things, we're free content, so we're open source, so we can use our content. We should maybe get licensed, maybe make some money on that, but we can talk about that offline.
We'll talk about that offline.
But remixing is huge, and so we believe that the open source software business is a tell sign to where media is going. You have contribution, and then there's derivative works, there's remixing, but then could be a business model, a dual core kind of thing. Do you look at things like that at all in the media? Because we're seeing the people just creating.
Yeah.
And legal can be friction or accelerant.
Yes,
So
definitely.
What's your vision on that?
Well, so I think for our technology, we want to be the fastest way to identify a content owner and intellectual property. Let's call it intellectual property, right? The internet represents the largest mass of intellectual property the world's ever seen. That's refreshing at a rate that's, it's done a lap already on itself since we first sat down to start this conversation. So that needs to be, it's really about scaling the identification of who owns the copyright and building the marketplace layer that can transact on that copyright between a buyer and a seller.
And do you do what? The marketplace, two-sided marketplace?
That's right. So brands come to us with content that they want to use. We verify the owners and the creators. We manage all of the entire transaction, and then we sell it back to the buyer.
What's the motion for a creator? Take me through the day in the life. I'm a creator. I'm growing. I got a zillion subscribers now, and I got turned into a hobby, turns into a business. Now I'm a Twitch streamer. I don't know. It could be anybody.
It really could be anybody. And actually, Catch+Release licenses content from people who may not even think of themselves as creators all the time, but who happen to capture just the perfect shot of their family with their kids taking their first steps, and Pampers wants to use that in an ad. They weren't necessarily waking up this morning thinking they'd license a piece of content, but they in fact are. So we work with creators who identify as creators and are trying to make a living doing that, as well as the long tail of the creator population, which is really everyone with a smartphone these days. But the way that it works is once a brand has indicated interest, Catch+Release will guide them through the transaction. We've built software for them to go through the motions of releasing their copyright, identifying models, doing all the talent releases, payments, all that. And then we invite them to join our creator community after that. So creators often will ask, hey, how do I how can I do this again?
Yeah.
Or can you protect me from someone using my work without my permission? And we've given them some really beautiful tools to just connect their social accounts to Catch and Release, and we become the layer, the licensing layer for them.
I definitely want to get into some of the product side, but I have a couple more questions.
Yeah.
On AI, the big thing is I want to do derivative works or do an image. So I get a base copyright image, I license, but then I want to pump it through some diffusion. Boom, I got this great, cool thing.
Yeah.
Does that qualify? Is there derivative works? Is it extension? Is it net new? Who owns that one? I mean,
Well, this is a hot topic in the licensing industry right now, and there's a lot. We're waiting on the courts to come back and tell us where they're going to go. There's not a lot of precedent for it. So
I would just say, yeah, it's the same license terms, right? I mean, because it is derivative
Well,
works. I mean, isn't it like?
I think it is definitely. I think even starting with a licensed image is a big step for the AI industry, because of course we know that a lot of these companies have scaled without getting consent to use training data. So that's a big area of opportunity for us.
Talk about the platform. Where does AI shine in? What's the technology? Is it you guys vetting through? Is it help on the selection? If I'm a brand, I want to go fast. Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
totally. So Catch and Release is really about discovery and licensing. That's the catch, is about how do you find what you're looking for, because the internet ultimately is a really big place. And when a brand is trying to tell a story or make an ad or do something, they want what's most relevant to them in that moment. So AI helps us tremendously with search. And we're not only searching based on aesthetic quality, we're also searching based on licensability. So we use tech to assess and determine whether or not a piece of content on the open internet can be licensed, using a number of probability factors, like how long ago was it posted, who posted it, how engaged are they on that platform, how many intellectual property risks exist in that shot, what's the time frame we think we can get a license by, for what price. So tech helps us predict all of that so that we can give that experience to the buyer.
So the buyer's kind of in charge on the selection, and what if I don't know what it's worth? So it sounds like you come in, you do the assessment.
Yeah.
This is a quality piece.
Yep.
And then someone had created, threw it into the bucket or like uploaded it.
Yeah.
They don't have to set the price, do they? Or
Well,
like,
no, we set the price based on the usage. So the stock imagery industry has really set the precedent for pricing rights for imagery and video. And so we, take into consideration what the buyer wants to do with the piece of content. Do they intend to use it for 6 months? Do they want exclusivity? Do they want to put it on TV? Or is it just going to be in a social post? These are all considerations that help us give them a price.
TV whoop, goes up,
goes up,
reach.
all media.
So it's all numbers based. It's a numbers game,
Correct,
right?
correct. And then we have relationships with many of the top brands in the world that we use our system on a regular basis, and so they get some.
So take me through the
benefits.
creator process. I find that fascinating. So that's really going to be a nice democratization. I mean, I've always been very critical of the creator culture because the CPM ad rates were really on volume, but sometimes you can have a really epic thing that could be worth something with not a lot of volume.
Yeah.
A very targeted piece.
Yeah.
In a lot of these YouTubers and creators, and I think they can make more money.
Yeah, well, we believe there's latent demand for licensing that unlocking the internet as a source of supply will address. So creators can make money somewhat passively on Catch and Release, right? They can go about their business, building their business as a creator, and make money on the B-roll, essentially, that is the internet. The internet is basically...
We got tons of B-roll, guys. The guys are listening there. We got tons of events.
It essentially is, right? I mean, that's one way to sort of think about it, is like the internet is the B-roll of our lives, right? And so how there's a huge amount of efficiency making that available to people, and a lot of opportunity for creators to make money without having to do a ton of work, a ton of extra work.
What are some of the categories for creators that are hot right now that people are watching? Is it YouTube, Twitch, photography, written word? Is all the above? Are you multimodal, all formats?
All formats, for sure. We really think about intellectual property. So multimedia intellectual property is in data. It's in images, videos, music, writing, art. We focus primarily right now on photography and video because there's just such a huge opportunity there. But yes, we're multimodal.
It's interesting. I'm watching some of I won't say any names, but in LA, there's a lot of action around like shrinking the studio model down where you can have a lot of licenses, because there's a lot of over-the-top programming on video. We're watching that very closely with theCUBE because you can be very disruptive if you're a creator to replicate product through partnerships and things. Do you see that coming as well? I mean, because it's really, we're at this wave where, hey, a big old monolithic media company could do something a certain way,
Yeah.
and then for short, scrappy,
Yeah.
smart, big audience numbers collected
Yeah.
together could do something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're seeing a huge amount of disruption to traditional advertising and media right now, and I think to us the opportunity is in the assets. It's in leveraging the assets and making those available. It's actually creating liquidity for the internet because it's a supply chain without a liquidity mechanism. If you can't license it, there's no liquidity. So where that gets pointed to in the next few years is going to be really interesting to
You know,
do.
Analisa, you know what I love about you catch and release? First of all, I love the whole creator mission because I think that's going to be something that we're passionate about. Of course, the brand side, that's where the money is. But when you're getting at the AI value, and we do all these CUBE interviews with all the techies and all these big events, it's the two things that come out. We're either producing AI and you get all the engineers and you're actually making the AI algorithms. But if you have data and workflows, that's valuable. That's intellectual property, whether you're a creator or an enterprise. That's what you're doing. It sounds like you're going into folks who have workflow creator, a brand, they have workflow, and then optimizing the assets on both sides.
That's right. That's exactly right. We're helping creators. Well, listen, at the end of the day, we believe creators are already doing all the work they need to do. They're buying the right camera equipment, they're documenting their life, they're sharing what's important to them, they're capturing their authentic experiences. I don't want them to have to worry about managing their assets in a marketplace. I don't want them to have to worry about, they should set their pricing preferences, but they shouldn't have to worry about pricing on a per asset basis or in an exact licensing scenario. They shouldn't have to worry about making their content discoverable to brands. This is what we do for the creators. We basically build the tooling so that all they have to worry about is continuing to create great content and post to the internet.
Give us an update on where you guys are at, the team, the focus, location. Are you guys LA, here, remote, everywhere?
We are remote, yeah. The team is, it's mainly technologists, designers, licensing experts, creatives. We are venture backed. Excel led our last round, our Series A, and we just launched a major partnership with TikTok. There are others that we'll be announcing in coming quarters, and we're really on a mission to license the internet and build the licensing layer for the web to make sure this is happening at scale. And as the internet grows, so does its licensing capability.
What was the idea? What was the origination? Because you have a legal background, right?
I by accident.
It's okay. We don't judge you.
By accident, I do. I started on the creative side, and I was an expert photography and video researcher and visual researcher, and I was great at finding content that my clients wanted to use, and then licensing became a necessity to learn because it did nothing for my customers if I couldn't help them.
It was the mundane task you had to do as a fatal flaw, but didn't happen.
That's exactly right, and that's where I became really fascinated with the process of licensing and infatuated, I would say, with the opportunity to build something to make that easy. Because it was just too hard. And
then also getting a Series A with Excel, they want to see scale. They want to see trajectory. Give us some updates on momentum. What you guys got going on? Can you share any details?
Sure. I'm super excited. Creator content is our largest growing category. So going out into the internet and finding content that's never been licensed before and making that licensable in a predictable time frame for our customers is our fastest growing segment. So we're seeing 400% growth there year over year, which is super exciting. We have so much coming on the product with regards to AI and generative AI and automation and workflows. We're really ramping up the creator community, so creators that have joined Catch and Release, that's grown about 600% year over year. There's a lot of value propositions there for creators, so really excited.
Do you see any changes we're in the B2B area, so we kind of give a good feel for what the influencer market is on the consumer side, but there's a lot of discussion around what is an influencer in the B2B sector. Are you doing any B2B activity?
Yeah, and when you say B2B, do you mean like
business to business, like enterprise? Influencers. We're not selling consumer products.
Yes,
but like media.
Correct. Yeah, imagery gets used in every single industry, right? Imagery, video gets used everywhere. So some of our clients are B2B, some of them are B2C, some of them are D2C. We work with a number of different customers.
So what's next? When was the last when did you close the last round of funding?
Last year, and we'll be going out for our next round probably somewhere in 2025. On the back of some really incredible partnerships and some strategic opportunities.
So TikTok,
TikTok is one.
Brands?
Brands we're working with, we work with all of the major advertisers, P&G, all the holding companies, so Publicis.
Agencies too, or just direct to brands?
Both, actually. We support the whole ecosystem, so advertising agencies play a really critical role in licensing content and making scalable creative solutions for their brands, so we work with them just as much as we work with the brands.
Is there a nugget of content that works best in your experience now that you're in the entrepreneurial role, but given your research background, you say that dog hunts, that one doesn't?
I would say emotional believability trumps pretty much everything else right now. So authenticity is super important.
Originality.
If a consumer can smell that it's fake, they can smell it from a mile away. They're becoming very sensitive to those nuances. So using content that's authentic and emotionally believable is hugely performant for agencies and brands.
I mean, it seems to me we're moving into an era of relationships, and the transactional nature of internet's moving. It's kind of passe. Like everyone clicks on links, like my affiliate link. It's like, I think people are gravitating towards more connection.
I think that's right. And I actually think that while we're all sort of dazzled by the output of generative AI and the incredible things it's been able to do with generating imagery and video, I would say it's actually created even more opportunity for authenticity now that people really are craving. I think as we see AI increase, I think we're going to put a premium on authenticity and human-created content.
I mean, AI is a great way to create vanilla content if you want vanilla, plain vanilla. But if you want originality and spice, you want to have original content's the new gold.
That's right. And I think where AI will disrupt the industry first is in vanilla content providers. Where content is vanilla, generative AI will be able to replace that. I love that that analogy, by the way.
Yeah, it's just like boring.
And I also really like vanilla ice cream.
I do too.
It gets such a bad rap.
Yeah, French vanilla is my favorite, actually. I like vanilla news. I mean, hey, news has happened. Hey, news happened. What's it mean? I love, news is a great example in our business. News is just vanilla. It's like it's out there, but then people want the progressions. What's next? The next prompt is, what does it mean? Who's my friends looking at it? The conversation? Should I pay attention to it?
Is it memorable? Is it something that is it intersecting with me in my day in a way that's adding value? I
mean, progression digitally is interesting. Internet is open to all kinds of new ways to understand.
And I love the idea that even in an era where AI is going to be doing so much for us, that at the end of the day, human creators are what are bringing the real value. I love that, and I want to protect that. And that's why licensing is so important.
John Mack, an entrepreneur who's got a nonprofit, has a question. He asks people postcards for the future. It's like, how do we preserve humanity in a digital age? It's a provocative question. People have different answers.
Well, I think the way people are documenting their life and sharing the documentation of their life is one step toward that. We're seeing incredible moments and memories and contents and stories captured and shared by creators. The other thing is how to behave as a software company interfacing with the general public, because that's what we do on a regular basis. Our software is reaching out to creators who we've never spoken with before, who we don't have a relationship with, and who we're expecting to trust that we have their best interest in mind to navigate a transaction that they maybe have never done before, and many people have never licensed anything before, so this is the first time for them doing it. And so how we interface with them is really important. Building trust with them is really important. How we, the language that we use when our system generates responses for them. Like, there's a lot that we think about in terms of the humanity of the experience.
Well, it's super exciting. Thanks for coming. I feel like I just got a good mentoring session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
We have a lot of content we might want to license, figure out. Probably not good enough, but we'll see for brands.
I'm sure. You never know.
Thank you for coming on. Appreciate you. All right, theCUBE and the NYC community bringing in all the action. Licensing is huge. Licensing the internet is a big, bold vision, but again, AI will accelerate and disrupt all industries. So, music, photography, video, media, all kinds of aspects. The new creators of the new brands. You're seeing a lot more action. Of course, theCUBE, we're doing our part with theCUBE NYC Wire community. Thanks for watching.